Welcome back into the ASUG News Studio. My name is Tom Wilgum, one of the co-hosts of ASUG News Broadcast Studio here at SAP Business Objects User Conference. That is a mouthful. Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back.
Good, thanks for having us back.
Well, we've got Brian Hammontree on the end here and Bob Messigner from ExpressScripts. Guys, they were here last year when we were in Orlando.
Absolutely.
Did a short commute there. Now you had to fly out for us. Glad to have you guys back in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First off, let's just go through, Brian, we'll start with you. What do you do at ExpressScripts? And then we'll kick it to Bob.
Sure. I'm a director of specialty analytics, so my team is responsible for modeling and building reports on some of our self-service environments for using business objects and dashboards so that our product and account management folks can have a real pulse on the business.
Great.
And my team is in charge of supporting the technical leg of everything that Brian's team produces. And so anything behind the scenes that needs to be done regarding data or some of the analytics piece, my group handles.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about ExpressScripts. What do you guys do?
ExpressScripts is a pharmaceutical PBM, and so they manage pharmacy benefits across the country. We sometimes reference it as the largest company that you've never heard of.
Well, I did until I met you guys.
That's true.
All right, so you guys are making another dynamite presentation here. Your titles are great. You guys know how to make a good title and presentation. Your presentation is Transforming Dinosaurs. Let's talk a little bit about what does that mean, what's the background of the presentation, and then we can dive into some of the lessons learned that you're sharing with fellow members this week.
Great. Sure thing. So Bob and I have been dealing with this over the years. The title basically means of trying to utilize the most robust technologies that we have, especially within the SAP Business Object Suites and all the tools available there. Sometimes in an organization, you can deal with some parts of the organization that maybe don't want to come off of their really old databases or their Excel models or however they might have been looking at the data at that point. So we're trying to bring some real life examples of what we've been able to do and how we try to spearhead some projects to kind of encourage them to come off of those old platforms.
Because isn't it amazing how emotional people can get attached to their databases or the way things...
Yes, it's their baby, and God forbid you should call it ugly.
So, probably not atypical. This happens in a lot of other organizations.
Right, and we went through a large period of acquisitions over a number of years, and we found every time we were coming into an acquisition that we got hold of, there were different segments that had very old technology, and so we were going in, and this is really kind of showing some of the ways to go in and replace the old technology and some of the benefits that you can get from the new technology.
So at the outset, what was the initial plan of attack when you guys wanted to kind of transform the dinosaurs? Like, what was the go-to kind of strategy as you got started?
The first thing you have to do is you have to put the benefits out there, and so they have to know what they're actually going to achieve or what they're going to get from this away from their old tools. The other thing that we always highlight is some of the problems that they most likely have with their old tools that everybody knows they sit in the background, they know these problems exist, and we just kind of bring those to the forefront and make sure they realize that they're really setting themselves up to failure if they don't move on to something bigger and better.
So what business objects software are we talking about in particular that was the most challenging, would you say?
Well, we're typically moving on to business objects.
You're moving on. So
Right.
sorry, from what?
Right.
Sorry, from what were they using before that they didn't want to get rid
A
of?
lot of Microsoft Access databases.
Okay.
A lot.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you had to show them the light with the business objects and
Right.
how it was
Showing
going
them.
to be better.
They would create their own shadow IT databases and data warehouses even. They would use Access to create a data warehouse, which really isn't what Access was designed for.
So you call them shadow processes. I really like that because there are all kinds of manual workarounds.
Yes.
Is it eye-opening to see when you share stories with your colleagues or other ASUG members about how people work around?
And it is, and it's a very common theme. And so what we find is, if we bring up, say, okay, well, somebody's been running this Access database for about 5 years, and they're the sole person that uses this data, and they monitor it and update it and make everything perfect. It's amazing how many organizations have a similar process like that in place, where they know there's a lot of problems that could be there. So.
Yeah.
And it's only one person too, right? So that's probably another
That's
problem.
another one problem.
Yeah, sometimes it's one person, and sometimes you'll find different corners of the organization will have that one person. So you might have 3 or 4 of them, and everyone goes, oh, don't ask Steve about his database. Don't even suggest that Steve uses something else. Oh my gosh.
So there are 3 big key learning points from your presentation. I'd like,
Yes.
obviously we don't have the time to share your full session here, but what are those kind of key learnings that came out of it?
Sure. It kind of goes to one of the first learning point. It talks about what you asked initially here a few seconds ago, and that was sometimes you have to, the first step is to identify the reasons why these shadow IT processes exist, identify what drove these dinosaurs to grab hold of really their own solution, and that's kind of why there's a lot of emotion attached to it, is they solved a problem that they had at a certain point in time, and so we need to understand what drove those things. The second piece is to, now that you understand what happened and you have a stable environment, you kind of walk through and align all the different competing or parts of the organization.
Okay.
Make sure finance and product and account management all understand what each of them needs from the data. Find common themes, make sure that even what someone calls revenue means revenue to each of those individual departments, because sometimes that's very different as well. And then the last piece I'll let Bob answer, because it's sort of around that infrastructure concept that we really rely on what he provided.
Right, and that's having a flexible architecture or a flexible model that you can go ahead and add to in the future. We understand that data is going to change over time, and especially the demand is going to change. And so as long as we're flexible, and it's something that they know can grow with them as they have different requests, it works out a lot better.
It also sounds, when you're describing it, like it could be like a political minefield.
Yes.
When you're
Yes.
going through this, especially if people have connections within.
Yes.
How do you navigate that? Is it by getting executive level sponsorship, or how do you get that?
Yes. Well,
started?
one of the things, especially at ExpressScripts, that we really value is collaboration and alignment. Alignment is the one thing that we drive towards, and so what we are trying to do is align the organization and make sure that everyone is talking the same language. Yes, it can be, as you might imagine, when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with politics, whether it be formally or informally. And oftentimes, so long as you're driving towards the right solution, the solution to the problem that's out there often becomes very obvious when you take the emotion out of it.
Right.
It is sometimes complicated. We have dealt with some things where we had to repeat ourselves several times, well, several dozen times, and lay out the benefits, like Bob mentioned, lay out the infrastructure stability, the infrastructure flexibility, talk through strategy, where they're going, and how the current situation really isn't a sustainable situation.
Right. And once the groups realize that we're really in there to help, and so we're
Right.
just trying to make things easier for them in the long run. We get a lot of buy-in on that as soon as they realize that we're gonna give them something better that they've always wanted.
So, can you give us a successful example of and what the Bob J product was that you ended up with?
Sure. So the Bob J product that we typically use is the Webby.
Okay.
And so one of the big selling points for Webby, obviously, is that your users can go ahead and get their own reports. They can log into Webby, go ahead and run reports for any parameters that they want out there. And we find a lot of groups with the older technology is they have almost like a gatekeeper of this one person that if you want a report, you need to go through him. He's going to go ahead and run it behind the scenes, and he's going to go ahead and email it out. Now, obviously, anytime this guy goes on vacation or takes a break,
Right.
we're going to have problems. And so by offering different solutions like that, it gets people really excited that they're not going to have to wait for their reporting. They can go and get it on their own time. If they realize that they missed something and need to go in late at night, they can go ahead and get that and get it taken care of.
And what did you guys have a name for that guy? Like, there's always like some guy. Like
I call him
Bill.
Steve.
Steve, yeah.
Yes.
Steve was, Steve's on vacation this week. Well, we got to shut down the business.
Basically.
Basically. Or Steve's going to be on his cell phone his entire vacation.
Right.
Yes, the guy, yeah, and somehow to them, sometimes with these kind of individual dinosaurs, they feel some sort of job security, and part of it is helping them realize that by providing these robust solutions, they're actually providing more job security and providing more value for the organization. It's not just about one person.
Exactly. Were there any unanticipated challenges or something, that shocked you guys that you learned by going through this that you really just did not expect? Was there one thing that sticks out?
I think, frankly, the one thing that continues to stick out to me or shocks me is that how often you just continue to run into the same thing over and over. You'd think that maybe you've weeded out all the different parts of the organization and you continue to find different pieces. Obviously, the bigger the organization, the more issues that you're going to have. But it just continues to be something that it's a shock to me when someone hasn't heard about the robust platform that we have available to us, the robust data, how stable it is, and they're still continuing to use those things. So we get sort of introduced to those kind of groups on occasion so that we can help guide them to the right solution.
So you're the ongoing evangelist. It doesn't really stop.
No,
with that
no,
initial.
I don't think it's ever stopped.
Yeah, it continues, which is good. It provides us. We are able to stay on the forefront of different things that Bob J provides and dashboarding solutions and whatnot. I was just very excited to continue to be part of an organization with SAP that continues to drive the product suite so that they're answering some of the needs that we have in the business world.
Absolutely.
That's great. All right, so you get 30 seconds each to give that. You're at a bar here. Not that you guys might ever go to a bar, but you're in a bar and someone, ASOG member says, "Give me the scoop. What should I do to get going?" In 30 seconds or less, what would be the one thing you would tell that person?
Sure, I'll go first. Give Bob a
And
reprieve.
Appreciate that.
And you're on the clock.
I'm on the clock. Okay, very good. So the concept is provide the most bang for your buck by having the ability to be proactive with your consulting, be proactive with your reporting, be proactive with your modeling, as opposed to waiting on a data set in Excel or an Access. Provide that in a robust environment and solve the issues before they are actual issues.
Mm-hmm. Great. 29 seconds. You made it.
Nice done.
Thank you.
I would say flexibility and security. And so by using some of the solutions that we have out there, you're not reliant on one single person or one small group of person. You have data out in a place where everybody can go ahead and use it. It's flexible enough that can be used across the board, as well as it's secure. And that's a big thing for us.
Right. Well, gentlemen, it was great to have you, and we really appreciate it. Great to see you again at BOUC.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Stay here, right on ASOGnews.com. We'll have more interviews live from the show floor at the SAP Business Objects User Conference. And thank you very much for watching.